Okay, thanks everyone for having me at Circle. I will start by sharing my personal story of growth and awakening. Where to start? I guess when I was much younger, I always felt like I was connected in a way. I could always kind of feel presences, and I had kind of an awareness just around me of just of energy of different things. And as I kind of grew older, I think like I kind of lost that connection, and I kind of went through my adult life for the most part doing all the things, right. I went to college, studied technology, got a job, spent 15 years in this job, basically in this career path, in software and technology, things of that nature, and just and at a certain point, I never really liked it. It was never really for me. And there were points in that career path where I had breaks in the job just because it wasn't wanted to explore other things. And during that time, I kind of started getting back into spirituality. Like I started with mindfulness, meditation, things of that nature. But then what really kicked it off for me was during COVID, during lockdown. Um, my last contract as a in software ended just before everything went into lockdown, and then I had a lot of time to process like things that I just didn't give myself time to process like earlier in my throughout my life. So that's when I had to deal with things. That's when I came to realize of the things that I had dealt with in my childhood that were never really dealt with. A lot of trauma patterns, a lot of healing that needed to be done, and then that's kind of where I started my journey. I didn't really know anything about spirituality at that point. It was more just I'd noticed a pattern in relationships and in the way my life was going that I didn't want to continue anymore. And at that point, I reached a point where like I kind of knew that things were really off, and I didn't want to. And I got to the point where I was just really upset about it. Like I was just pissed off and wanted to do something about it. I wasn't in that phase anymore where I was like, oh no, well, why is this happening to me? I was like, no, I need to stop this right now. So then I started doing like a lot of deeper work, just understanding the psychology behind trauma, behind behind things like the inner child, things of that nature. And then as I started doing this work, I found myself being drawn to medicine circles. I did a lot of journeys with psilocybin, with mushrooms, and then I also did a lot of journeys with bufo, which is the toad medicine. And through that journey, I was able to like kind of shed a lot of the survival based mechanisms, right? Just like that fight or flight mode, that survival level thinking, and actually start to do more work on the deeper levels of trauma. So, and again, at that point, I didn't understand anything about spirituality. But as soon as I started piecing together the aspects of the trauma patterns related to like childhood trauma, and how that carries on into your adult life and your relationships and things like that. Everything opened up for me spiritually. It was like the world just opened basically. So I started to open up to like I don't even know where to start, honestly. Like just everything really just opened up. I started to become aware of multidimensionality. I think I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Cryon. Yes. Okay. So that was immediately those all those Cryon channelings immediately started coming to me, and I'm like, wait, what is this? And then that started opening me up to the about the nature of really where we are as humanity, and but where we're trying to go in terms of ascending out of this fear matrix and into this age of love and peace and unity. So and then I just kind of went with it basically. Um, and I think like the what really fueled my spiritual development was that I just never stopped. What I realized as a practitioner now is that people get to a certain point sometimes where they do the healing work and they get and they say I'm good. I'm not. I don't want to really go any further. I've achieved what I want to achieve, and I'm just gonna stop and just be happy. I never stopped. Basically, I just kept continuing to do more and more healing work, and because I felt really drawn, right? Because I felt like there was always more to go, and I kind of have that nature is when I start something, I typically just don't stop it. So I don't. So also that also means I don't really start a whole lot of stuff either because then I kind of get a little obsessed about not finishing. So so as this journey progressed, I started to develop more and more skills, right? I started more people started coming into my life, which were who were kind of more like they took on these mentor roles or these teacher type roles and started just showing me more and more things about the nature of spirituality, about working with energy, different perspectives, just different ways of looking at the world and basically just everything. So I just kind of continued with that path, and I'm still continuing on that path. And it's it continues to grow and evolve, and it's not and I say it's hasn't necessarily been easy because during this path of awakening, you have to really face a lot of things that are uncomfortable and things you may not necessarily like about yourself or about anything, and then but it's all part of that growth. It's all part of that path of healing and growth and evolution, and that's why I keep going and keep doing it. So I started out developing my skills through the working with plant medicine with the mushroom and the bufo. I actually started developing my own protocol to serve mushrooms. And I played with it myself for a few months basically, and then started serving myself, and then started introducing it to other people and people who've been doing medicine journeys and ceremonies for years and years were like this. Okay, you have something here, yeah. And so I started facilitating mushroom journeys, and then kind of went from there and started developing more of my skill set into these various other areas that I work in. So now I do quantum hypnosis, which is a modality that allows people to access the subconscious, kind of navigate the subconscious to identify the root cause of certain patterns in their life. And once that root cause is identified, we can resolve it. Because generally, what happens is you encounter a trauma pattern at a stage in your life where you don't have the skills or the tools to address it. But then when you go back into it as an adult and reevaluate it, look at that memory or that trauma pattern, but at memory as an adult, you now have the tools to resolve it. So then once we resolve it as an adult, it's these patterns don't carry on anymore. You know, I also I also learned how to access the Akashic records. So if people want to know more about their soul purpose or their past life experiences, things like that, then we can navigate. I can navigate those as well. And then I learned to work with specific crystals and frequencies and things of that nature. And that all this kind of came in. Most of the stuff kind of came in intuitively. I started practicing it, doing it, and then showing it to my friends and other practitioners, and they were pretty much just like, yeah, okay, you're on something. So I just kept following these intuitive hits and these intuitive nudges, and kept developing more practices and learning more modalities and just kind of adding them to my skill set. You know. So the other thing that I just recently added was is a soul retrieval. So I can actually so people have these trauma patterns or just are feeling stuck and they don't necessarily want to re-explore where it came from. We can then I can kind of just reintegrate pull those soul pieces back in and start reintegrating them. So what I've kind of developed is this toolkit of like a couple different modalities to kind of help people wherever they are on their path and whatever they resonate with, right? So if people are like a little bit more on the clinical side, then it might resonate with the quantum hypnosis because it doesn't necessarily involve a ton of spiritual concepts, right? But if they're coming in from more of a shamanic perspective, then the soul retrieval will resonate with them more. And again, if people are more drawn to working with crystals, then the crystal work will work with them as well. And if people are more on the esoteric side and want to connect with ascended masters and archangels and things like that, then the multidimensional healing is something that'll resonate with them. And then what I did for unified quantum healing is the new modality where I just combine everything that I've learned through all these different modalities into one offering. And that's kind of what I do in a nutshell, and that's what I offer. So good. So I think that brings everyone up to speed on on my journey and where I am so far. So I will do a. So I think now we'll go into the meditation aspect of it. Um, all right. So there's well before so I'll just talk a little bit about like the energies going on right now. So we have just there's well March has been a very energetic month. Yes. Have yeah, been kind of a roller coaster. Yes. Yep. 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 Yes. Okay. So let me just go into a little bit about how these energies are kind of just like a brief outline of what these energies are. And since I don't have my notes, I'm just going to wing it. Okay. So there's been a lot of cosmic alignments going on recently. Starting in February, we had the Neptune and Saturn alignment, I believe. And yep, okay. And then recently we had this blood moon lunar eclipse. That was a total lunar eclipse on around March 3rd. And that was also this cycle of release. Um, Recently we had the equinox just a few days ago. So we're still in that equinox window. We also had the Sun and Neptune conjunction as well, which is kind of also within that window of the Neptune and Saturn conjunction. So there's a lot of cosmic activity going on. And like the theme for this month is really a lot of closure and closing out a lot of old cycles, a lot of and just just ending a lot of the things that don't serve us moving forward. So uh, it's it's kind of like everything that I've been channeling in or receiving or just hearing from other people in the community is that it's like a cosmic reset point. So it's very so it's a very powerful one, and it's in it kind of a it's like the ending of a lot of cycles going back like thousands of years basically. So it's a very big reset point. Um, and on top of that, so today is actually a very special day. How many of you follow are aware of Three Eye Atlas? Okay, good. Anyone else? No? Yes? So, Three Eye Atlas, I've been following it through my channelings and remote viewing, and it is a interstellar activator. Basically, it's been moving through our solar system, and every time it passes by a celestial object like the like Mars or the Sun or Earth, it sends a lot of energy to rebalance that object. basically. So it's been moving through our system, and today it it's at its closest point to Jupiter, and it is from what I can tell, it's doing quite a bit of activation there, and yeah, and that is kind of also working in conjunction with everything that's been going on cosmically to close out old cycles and bring in new energy into wherever we want to go next.